Alex Carter took a deep breath as the massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber slid open. Standing beside them was Rachel Monroe, their ever-reliable assistant. The two had traveled millions of miles from Earth to represent humanity for the first time in interstellar diplomacy. It was a momentous occasion, one that carried the weight of an entire planet on their shoulders. Alex felt a mix of excitement and nerves as they stepped inside. The council chamber was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The room stretched high into the air, its ceiling glittering with what looked like tiny stars. Strange creatures sat in rows around a circular table, each more bizarre than the last. Some had scales that shimmered in iridescent colors. Others had multiple arms or glowing eyes. A few floated above their seats, their bodies encased in hovering orbs. Every alien turned to look at Alex and Rachel as they entered, their expressions unreadable. Rachel leaned closer and whispered, "You've got this." Her words were meant to reassure, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that all eyes were judging them. They walked slowly toward the center of the room, where a podium awaited. Alex placed their hands firmly on the smooth surface, trying to steady themselves. This was it, the moment Earth would officially introduce itself to the galaxy. A tall, spindly creature with translucent skin stood up. Its voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into English by a device clipped to Alex's ear. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. We are honored to meet you." Alex nodded politely, then began their prepared speech. They spoke about Earth's history, its diverse cultures, and its desire to join the galactic community. For a while, everything seemed to be going well. The aliens listened intently, nodding occasionally. But then something unexpected happened. One of the council members, a bulky, insect-like creature with chitinous armor, interrupted Alex mid-sentence. "Forgive me," it said, its tone polite but firm. "I have a question regarding your species' hatching protocols." Alex froze, unsure if they'd heard correctly. Hatching protocols. What did that mean? Before Alex could respond, another council member chimed in. "Yes, we assumed all advanced species followed similar reproductive methods. Do humans not hatch from eggs?" The room fell silent, every alien waiting for an answer. Alex glanced at Rachel, who gave a small shrug, just as confused as they were. For a brief moment, Alex considered pretending to understand. Maybe they could laugh it off or change the subject. But something told them honesty was the best approach. Taking a deep breath, Alex replied, "No, humans don't hatch from eggs. We, give live birth." The words sounded strange even to Alex's ears, especially in this setting. The reaction was immediate. Gasps rippled through the chamber, followed by murmurs of disbelief. Some aliens leaned forward, clearly intrigued. Others exchanged glances, their faces, or whatever passed for faces, twisted in confusion. Alex felt their cheeks grow warm. Had they just made a huge mistake? One of the council leaders, a towering being with flowing robes and a crown of crystal spikes, raised a hand to silence the room. "This is most unusual," he said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. "Please explain further." Alex hesitated, then launched into a simplified explanation of human reproduction. They talked about pregnancy, childbirth, and the bond between parents and children. As they spoke, they noticed some aliens scribbling notes, while others stared blankly, as though struggling to grasp the concept. When Alex finished, the room remained eerily quiet. Finally, the leader spoke again. "We will need time to process this information. Let us adjourn temporarily." As the council members filed out of the chamber, Alex let out a long sigh. "Well," Rachel said with a nervous laugh, "that could have gone worse." Alex wasn't so sure. After the council adjourned, Alex and Rachel retreated to their assigned quarters. The room was small but comfortable, with soft lighting and furniture that seemed designed for beings much taller than humans. Alex sank into a chair, rubbing their temples. "What just happened back there?" they muttered, shaking their head. Rachel sat across from them, her expression thoughtful. You told them the truth, Rachel replied. That's all you could do. She paused, then added, besides, this kind of thing happens all the time in first contact situations. Remember the Plixian incident? They thought we drank liquid nitrogen because someone translated iced coffee wrong. Alex managed a weak smile. Yeah, but this wasn't a translation error. It's biology. How did no one know about this before now? Rachel shrugged. Maybe they assumed we were like them. You know how it is. People tend to think everyone else does things the same way. Alex sighed again, leaning back in their chair. Still, I can't stop thinking about their reactions. Did you see their faces? Some of them looked like I just said we eat rocks or something. Rachel chuckled. It's not every day you tell a room full of aliens that your species doesn't hatch from eggs. Give them some time to process it. But as the hours passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they'd made a grave mistake. Word of their revelation spread quickly through the corridors of the council building. Delegates whispered behind closed doors, and curious glances followed Alex and Rachel wherever they went. Some aliens approached them directly, asking questions that ranged from scientific to downright bizarre. One delegate, a spindly creature with 6 limbs and glowing blue eyes, stopped them in the hallway. Forgive me, it said, its voice high-pitched and melodic. I am trying to understand. Do your young emerge fully formed, or are they incomplete? Alex blinked, unsure how to respond. Babies are born alive, but they're helpless at first. They need care and feeding for years before they can take care of themselves. The alien tilted its head, clearly puzzled. Years? That seems inefficient. Why would nature design such a system? It builds bonds, Alex explained, though they weren't sure the alien understood. Parents stay close to protect and teach their children. It helps create strong families and communities. The alien hummed thoughtfully before moving on, leaving Alex and Rachel alone once more. As they continued walking, Rachel nudged Alex gently. See, you're doing fine. People, or well, aliens, are curious. That's a good sign. But not everyone shared Rachel's optimism. In another part of the council building, tension simmered. Threxon, the insectoid council member who had first brought up the topic of hatching, paced angrily in his private chamber. His sharp mandibles clicked together as he muttered under his breath. To him, humanity's reproductive method wasn't just strange, it was unnatural. Later that evening, Alex received a message summoning them to a smaller meeting room. When they arrived, they found Kayla, a scientist from the aquatic Drevian species, waiting for them. Her sleek, silver scales shimmered faintly in the light, and her large, dark eyes studied Alex with obvious curiosity. I apologize for intruding, Kayla began, her voice smooth and calm. But I must admit, your explanation earlier intrigued me. May I ask you more about it? Alex hesitated, then nodded. Sure. Ask away. Kayla wasted no time. How long does this gestation period last? And what role do males play in reproduction? Her questions came rapidly, each one revealing her fascination with human biology. Alex answered as best they could, describing pregnancy, childbirth, and the roles of both parents in raising children. As the conversation went on, Alex noticed something surprising. Kayla wasn't judgmental or dismissive. Instead, she listened intently, occasionally nodding or making notes on a handheld device. By the end of their discussion, Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe not everyone saw humanity's differences as a flaw. When they returned to their quarters, Rachel greeted them with raised eyebrows. So, how did it go? Alex smiled faintly. Better than I expected. For the first time today, I feel like someone actually wants to understand us. Rachel grinned. That's a start, right? One curious alien at a time. But even as they spoke, Alex knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Across the council chambers, opinions were dividing. And not everyone was as open-minded as Kayla. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling a mix of relief and unease. Their conversation with Kayla had been encouraging, but the overall mood of the council still felt uncertain. As they got ready for the day, Rachel handed them a cup of something that smelled faintly like coffee. "Here," she said. "Thought you could use this." Alex took a sip and winced. It tasted nothing like coffee, but at least it was warm. "Thanks, I think." They glanced at Rachel. "What's on the agenda today?" Rachel flipped through her notes. "Not much officially. The council's still in recess, so we've got some time to prepare for the next session. But word's spreading fast about yesterday. People are talking." Sure enough, as Alex and Rachel made their way to the dining hall, they noticed more aliens watching them. Some looked curious, others skeptical. A few even pointed or whispered to each other. Alex tried to ignore the attention, but it wasn't easy. Every glance felt like a judgment. At breakfast, they ran into Kayla again. She greeted them warmly, her silver scales shimmering under the light. "I hope I didn't overwhelm you with questions last night," she said, her tone friendly. "No, not at all," Alex replied. "You were actually one of the first people here who seemed genuinely interested in understanding us." Kayla nodded. "It's fascinating, really. Your species is so different from ours. And yet, there are similarities too. Bonds between parents and offspring, for example. We Drevians value those connections deeply." Alex smiled, feeling a small sense of relief. "That's good to hear. I was starting to worry everyone would think we're weird." Kayla tilted her head slightly. "Some might. Change always brings resistance, but there are others like me, scientists, explorers, who see your differences as an opportunity to learn. Not all species follow the same path, and that's what makes the galaxy so rich." Her words gave Alex a bit of hope, but the moment was short-lived. As they left the dining hall, they overheard a heated argument nearby. Two council members, one a spindly, bird-like creature, the other a hulking reptilian alien, were debating loudly. "How can we trust a species that doesn't even reproduce properly?" The reptilian alien growled. His voice carried, drawing the attention of nearby delegates. The bird-like creature flapped its wings indignantly. "Properly? Just because they don't lay eggs doesn't mean their method is inferior. Have you considered the evolutionary advantages?" Alex froze, unsure whether to step in or walk away. Before they could decide, Threxen appeared, his armored body towering over the group. "Enough," he snapped, his mandibles clicking sharply. "This isn't about evolution. It's about predictability. Humans are unpredictable. Their biology proves it." The room fell silent as Threxen turned his gaze toward Alex. "Your kind disrupts everything we know about intelligent life. How can we trust you to uphold galactic standards when you can't even conform to basic biological norms?" Alex felt their stomach drop. They opened their mouth to respond, but found themselves at a loss for words. Rachel stepped forward instead. "With respect," she said firmly, "different doesn't mean wrong. Humanity has thrived for thousands of years using this method. Maybe it's worth considering why." Threxen's eyes narrowed, but before he could reply, another voice cut in. "She's right," said Zoran, an elder from the avian Solari race. He stood tall, his feathers gleaming gold in the light. "Diversity is strength, Threxen. Would you deny the galaxy the chance to learn from these humans?" Threxen bristled but said nothing. Instead, he turned and stalked off, leaving the others behind. Zoran approached Alex and Rachel, his expression calm but serious. "Don't let him discourage you," he said gently. "There will always be those who fear change, but there are also those who welcome it." Alex nodded, though they weren't entirely reassured. Later, back in their quarters, they replayed the confrontation in their mind. "Do you think we can win them over?" they asked Rachel. Rachel shrugged. "Maybe not all of them. But if we keep being honest and showing them who we are, we'll find allies. Like Kayla and Zoran." Alex sighed, leaning back against the wall. I just hope it's enough. As the day wore on, Alex realized they were running out of time to make their case. The council would reconvene soon, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. For now, all they could do was prepare and hope that curiosity would outweigh fear. The next day, Alex and Rachel worked tirelessly to prepare for the upcoming council session. They knew they needed to address the growing concerns about humanity's differences in a way that would resonate with the alien delegates. Sitting at a small table in their quarters, they spread out notes, diagrams, and recordings from Earth. Rachel tapped her pen against the table thoughtfully. "We need something that shows them we're not so different after all," she said. Alex nodded, staring at the materials in front of them. "But how do we explain something as basic as live birth in a way that makes sense to them? Most of these species have no frame of reference." Rachel smiled. "Maybe we focus less on the biology and more on the emotions. You told Kayla about family bonds that seemed to click with her. Maybe we lean into that." Alex hesitated. Talking about emotions felt risky. What if the aliens saw it as a weakness? But then again, what choice did they have? Their biology wasn't going to change, and hiding it hadn't worked so far. "All right," Alex said finally. "Let's try it your way." Over the next few hours, they pieced together a presentation. They included simple explanations of human reproduction, but emphasized the connections between parents and children, the importance of community, and the strength that came from working together. Rachel suggested adding visuals, images of families celebrating birthdays, parents holding newborns, and kids playing in parks. "These moments might feel ordinary to us," she said, "but to them, they could be extraordinary." When the time came, Alex stood nervously outside the council chamber. Rachel gave them an encouraging pat on the shoulder. "You've got this," she said. "Just speak from the heart." Inside, the room buzzed with quiet conversations. As Alex approached the podium, they noticed a mix of expressions: curiosity, skepticism, and even a few smiles. Taking a deep breath, Alex began. "Thank you for allowing me to share more about humanity today." They started, their voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside. They explained human reproduction briefly, using clear language and simple terms. Then, they shifted to the emotional side. For humans, having children is about more than just continuing our species. It's about love, connection, and building a future together. When a baby is born, it brings joy not just to the parents but to the entire community. Families support each other, teaching the next generation how to care for one another and work as a team. As Alex spoke, they showed the images Rachel had helped gather. Aliens leaned forward, their eyes wide with interest. Some whispered among themselves, while others simply stared, captivated by the scenes of celebration and affection. Even Threxon, seated near the back, seemed momentarily intrigued, though his expression remained stern. When Alex finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then, Kayla stood up. "I'd like to thank Delegate Carter for their honesty and openness," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "This glimpse into humanity's way of life has been enlightening. While our methods may differ, the values of connection and cooperation are universal." Her words sparked a ripple of agreement. Several other delegates nodded, and one even clapped softly. Zoran added, "It takes courage to embrace diversity, both in others and within ourselves. Humanity's differences should be seen as an opportunity, not a barrier." Not everyone was convinced, of course. Frexon crossed his arms, his face unreadable. A few delegates exchanged skeptical glances, clearly still uneasy. But for the first time since arriving on Zorathia, Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to get through. After the session ended, Alex and Rachel returned to their quarters, exhausted but relieved. "That went better than I expected," Alex admitted, collapsing onto a chair. Rachel grinned. "Told you speaking from the heart would work. People, even aliens, connect over shared values." Alex smiled faintly. "Yeah, But we're not out of the woods yet. There's still a lot of convincing to do. Still, for the first time, Alex allowed themselves to believe that humanity might actually have a chance. The road ahead would be tough. But they weren't alone anymore. The days following Alex's presentation felt like a roller coaster. While some council members seemed genuinely interested in humanity's way of life, others remained deeply skeptical. Threxen, in particular, had grown more vocal in his opposition. He gathered allies among the conservative factions, spreading doubts about humanity's place in the galactic community. His arguments were sharp and calculated, painting humans as unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Live birth is inefficient, he declared during one informal gathering. It leaves too much to chance. How can we trust a species that relies on such an unreliable method? His words carried weight, especially with species whose own reproductive cycles were highly structured and predictable. Several delegates nodded along, their expressions troubled. Alex heard about these meetings through Rachel, who had a knack for picking up gossip in the halls. "He's really pushing hard," Rachel said one evening as they reviewed notes in their quarters. "But don't worry, he's not the only voice out there." Alex sighed, running a hand through their hair. "I know, but it feels like every step forward comes with 2 steps back. What if he convinces enough people to vote against us?" Rachel sat down across from them, her tone firm. "Then we fight harder. You've already made progress with Kayla and Zoran. They're on our side, and they're influential. We just need to keep showing the Council that humanity isn't a threat." Despite Rachel's reassurance, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The final vote was approaching, and tensions were rising. One afternoon, Alex found themselves cornered by a group of curious delegates in the council lounge. They asked pointed questions about human society, everything from education systems to conflict resolution. Alex answered as best they could, trying to highlight humanity's strengths while addressing their concerns. But not all questions were friendly. A reptilian delegate named Vornak tilted his head, his slit-like eyes narrowing. "Your species places great value on emotions, correct? Does this not make you unstable? Emotions can lead to rash decisions, can they not?" Alex hesitated, choosing their words carefully. "Emotions are powerful, yes, but they also drive us to care for each other and work together. Without emotions, we wouldn't have art, music, or the desire to explore the stars. It's part of what makes us who we are." Vornak didn't look entirely convinced, but he nodded politely and moved on. As the crowd dispersed, Alex noticed Kayla watching from a distance. She approached afterward, her expression thoughtful. "You handled that well," she said. "Vornak is one of Threxen's supporters, but even he seems unsure now." Alex managed a small smile. "Thanks. I'm just trying to stay honest." Kayla placed a webbed hand gently on Alex's arm. "That's exactly why people are starting to listen. Honesty builds trust. Keep doing what you're doing." Later that evening, Alex and Rachel discussed strategy over a meal. Rachel suggested reaching out to more neutral delegates, those who hadn't yet taken sides. "If we can sway even a few undecided votes, it could make all the difference," she said. The next day, Alex followed Rachel's advice. They sought out quieter, less confrontational aliens and engaged them in conversation. These interactions were often awkward at first, but Alex found that many were eager to learn. One delegate, a jellyfish-like creature named Liren, floated beside them as they walked through the gardens outside the council building. "Tell me more about your young," Liren said, her glowing tendrils pulsing softly. "How do you teach them to survive?" Alex explained how humans raise children, emphasizing the role of families, schools, and communities. Liren listened intently, occasionally making soft humming noises. By the end of their talk, she thanked Alex warmly. "Your methods are unusual, but they seem effective. Perhaps there is wisdom in your ways." These small victories gave Alex hope, but the shadow of Threxen loomed large. He continued to rally support, his speeches growing louder and more dramatic. "We must protect the integrity of our council. he thundered during one heated debate. Allowing humans to join would set a dangerous precedent. His words stirred unease among some delegates, and Alex could feel the tide shifting. That night, lying awake in their quarters, Alex stared at the ceiling, wondering if they'd done enough. Rachel, sensing their anxiety, offered quiet encouragement. "You've planted seeds of understanding," she said. "Now we let them grow." As dawn broke, Alex resolved to keep fighting, not just for themselves, but for the billions of humans counting on them back home. The morning of the final council session arrived, and Alex felt a mix of determination and dread. They had done everything they could to prepare, answering questions, sharing stories, and building connections, but the outcome was still uncertain. Rachel helped Alex straighten their clothes and offered a reassuring smile. "You've got this," she said softly. "Just be yourself." As they entered the council chamber, the room buzzed with anticipation. Delegates filled their seats, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. Frexen sat near the front, his armored body rigid and his mandibles clicking impatiently. Across the room, Kayla gave Alex a small nod of encouragement, her silver scales catching the light. Zoran, the elder Solari, watched silently, his golden feathers shimmering as he leaned back in his chair. The council leader called the session to order, his voice calm but commanding. "Today, we will hear closing arguments regarding humanity's application for provisional membership. Delegate Carter, you may begin." Alex stepped up to the podium, their heart pounding. Taking a deep breath, they looked around the room, meeting the eyes, or equivalent features, of as many delegates as possible. "Thank you for allowing me to speak one last time," they began, their voice steady despite their nerves. "I know our differences have raised questions, and I understand your concerns, but I believe those differences are also an opportunity for all of us." They launched into their argument, starting with the basics of human biology, but quickly moving to the values that defined humanity. "We may not hatch from eggs, but we share something universal with every species here: the desire to grow, learn, and connect. Our children take years to mature, but during that time, they form bonds with their families and communities that shape who they become. These relationships teach them empathy, cooperation, and resilience, qualities that make us stronger together." Alex paused, letting their words sink in. Then they shared personal stories, describing moments of joy and struggle from their own life on Earth. They talked about family gatherings, late-night conversations with friends, and the sense of belonging that came from being part of something bigger than oneself. As they spoke, some delegates leaned forward, clearly moved by the emotions behind the words. When Alex finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then Kayla stood, her voice ringing out. "Delegate Carter has shown us the heart of humanity, not just their biology, but their spirit. To dismiss them would be to turn away from the very diversity that enriches our galaxy." Her speech sparked nods of agreement from several delegates, including Liren, the jellyfish-like creature Alex had spoken to earlier. Even some of Threxen's supporters seemed less certain, their expressions thoughtful rather than hostile. Threxen, however, refused to back down. He rose to his feet, his voice sharp and loud. "Emotions are unpredictable. Bonds like these create attachments that cloud judgment. How can we trust a species so ruled by feelings?" Before Alex could respond, Zoran stood, his towering frame commanding attention. "Feelings are not weaknesses, they are strengths," he said firmly. "Our own history proves this. When my people embraced new ideas instead of fearing them, we grew stronger. Humanity offers us a chance to expand our understanding. Why reject that gift?" His words resonated throughout the chamber, earning murmurs of approval from many delegates. Frexen glared at him, but said nothing more, retreating to his seat with a scowl. As the session drew to a close, Alex felt a flicker of hope. The tide seemed to be turning, though the final vote remained uncertain. Back in their quarters, Rachel hugged Alex tightly. "That was incredible," she said. "No matter what happens, you made them listen." Alex nodded, exhaustion settling over them. We'll see soon enough. For now, all they could do was wait, and hope that honesty and courage would carry the day. The hours leading up to the final vote dragged on, each minute feeling heavier than the last. Alex and Rachel stayed in their quarters, trying to distract themselves with idle conversation and cups of that strange coffee-like drink. But no matter how hard they tried, the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. "You've done everything you could," Rachel said at one point, her tone gentle but firm. "There's nothing more to do now except wait." Alex nodded, though their mind raced with endless possibilities. What if Threxen had swayed enough delegates to block humanity's membership? What if the Council decided Earth wasn't ready for galactic involvement? The thought of returning home empty-handed weighed heavily on them. Finally, the summons came. A message flashed on the wall screen. Council reconvening for final vote. Alex took a deep breath, straightened their jacket, and turned to Rachel. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be," Rachel replied with a small smile. Together, they made their way back to the council chamber. The room buzzed with quiet anticipation as delegates filed in and took their seats. Alex noticed subtle shifts in body language. Some aliens seemed more relaxed, while others appeared tense. Kayla gave them a reassuring glance, and Zoran offered a slight nod. Threxen, however, sat stiffly, his mandibles twitching with barely concealed frustration. The council leader called for order, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We have heard all arguments regarding humanity's application for provisional membership. It is time to cast our votes." He pressed a button on the table before him, and lights began flashing across panels embedded in the walls. Each delegate activated their voting device, their decisions recorded silently. For several long minutes, the room remained completely still. Alex held their breath, every second stretching into what felt like an eternity. Finally, the council leader stood, his expression unreadable. "The results are in," he announced. Alex's heart pounded as he continued. "By a narrow margin, the Galactic Council has voted to grant humanity provisional membership." The chamber erupted into murmurs. Some delegates cheered softly, while others clapped politely. Across the room, Kayla smiled warmly, her glowing eyes reflecting pride. Zoran raised a feathered wing in approval, his golden plumage shimmering under the light. Even Liren floated gently upward, her tendrils pulsing in a gesture Alex had come to recognize as happiness. But not everyone shared in the celebration. Threxen slammed a clawed hand against the table, his sharp voice cutting through the noise. "This is a mistake," he bellowed. "Mark my words, the council will regret this decision." Without waiting for a response, he stormed out of the chamber, followed by a few of his supporters. Despite Threxen's outburst, Alex couldn't help but feel a wave of relief wash over them. They glanced at Rachel, who grinned widely. "You did it," she whispered. "Humanity's in." After the session ended, delegates approached Alex to offer congratulations, or in some cases, cautious advice. One insectoid council member, whose earlier skepticism had softened, told Alex, "Your species has much to prove, but today's vote shows promise. Do not waste this opportunity." Later, as the crowd thinned, Kayla approached Alex once more. In her hands, she held a small crystal orb. "A token of respect," she explained, placing it gently in Alex's palm. "It contains recordings of our conversations. Consider it a foundation for future collaboration." Alex stared at the orb, its surface shimmering faintly. "Thank you," they said, their voice thick with emotion. "I won't forget this." As they prepared to leave Zorethia, Alex reflected on everything that had happened. The journey had been far from easy, but it had taught them valuable lessons about courage, honesty, and the power of connection. Back on Earth, news of humanity's provisional membership spread quickly, sparking celebrations and debates alike. For the first time, humanity truly felt part of something larger, a galaxy full of possibilities. Standing aboard the spaceship bound for home, Alex looked out at the stars streaking past the window. They didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but one thing was certain: humanity's place among the stars had begun. The journey back to Earth was quieter than Alex had expected. After the whirlwind of events on Zerathia, the silence aboard the spaceship felt almost surreal. Rachel spent most of her time organizing notes and sending preliminary reports back to Earth's leadership, while Alex found themselves lost in thought. The weight of what they'd accomplished and the challenges ahead kept replaying in their mind. One evening, as the ship drifted through the vast emptiness of space, Alex sat by a large viewport, gazing at the endless field of stars. Kayla's crystal orb rested in their hand, its faint glow casting soft reflections on the glass. They couldn't help but wonder how humanity would navigate this new chapter. Would Earth rise to meet the expectations of the Galactic Council, or would Threxon's warnings prove true? Rachel joined them after a while, holding 2 steaming cups of that strange coffee substitute. "Here," she said, handing one to Alex. "You look like you could use this." Alex accepted it with a small smile. "Thanks. I didn't realize space travel could feel so lonely." Rachel chuckled softly. "Even when you're surrounded by billions of stars, it's easy to feel small. But hey, you just secured humanity's spot in the galaxy. That's kind of huge." Alex nodded, sipping the warm drink. It still tasted odd, but it was comforting in its own way. "Do you think we're ready for this?" they asked quietly. "I mean, we barely understand half the species out there, and now we're supposed to work with them." Rachel shrugged. "No one ever feels completely ready for something like this. But that's the thing about being human. We figure it out as we go. We adapt, we learn, and we grow. That's what got us here in the first place." Her words struck a chord with Alex. They thought about all the moments that had led to this point, the awkward explanations, the heated debates, the quiet conversations that had slowly built bridges. Humanity wasn't perfect, but maybe that was the point. Maybe imperfection was what made them relatable. As the days passed, news from Earth began trickling in. Governments and organizations around the world were buzzing with excitement and debate. Some celebrated humanity's inclusion in the Galactic Council as a historic milestone, while others voiced concerns about the responsibilities it entailed. Scientists scrambled to study alien technologies shared during the council sessions, and educators started discussing how to teach children about their place in the galaxy. Back on the ship, Alex received a message from Kayla. Her voice came through the communication device, calm and reassuring. "I wanted to check in," she said. "How are you holding up?" Alex smiled, touched by her thoughtfulness. "I'm okay," they replied. "Just thinking about everything that's coming next." Kayla hummed softly, a sound that somehow conveyed understanding. "Change is never easy, but you've already shown remarkable resilience. Remember, you're not alone. There are many of us who believe in humanity's potential, including me." Her words stayed with Alex long after the call ended. They realized that while the road ahead would be challenging, they had allies scattered across the galaxy, people or beings who saw value in humanity's differences and were willing to help them succeed. When the spaceship finally entered Earth's atmosphere, Alex felt a surge of emotion they hadn't anticipated. The blue-green planet stretched below them, vibrant and alive. For the first time, they saw it not just as home, but as part of something much larger. Humanity wasn't just a single species anymore. It was a thread woven into the fabric of the cosmos. As they stepped off the ship and onto the tarmac, crowds erupted in cheers. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, and banners waved proudly in the wind. Alex stood there for a moment, taking it all in. This was only the beginning, a fragile yet hopeful start to humanity's journey among the stars. Rachel leaned close, grinning. "Welcome back, space diplomat." Alex laughed softly. "Let's just hope I don't have to explain live birth again anytime soon." Together, they walked forward, ready to face whatever the future held. The days following Alex's return to Earth were a blur of activity. News of humanity's provisional membership in the Galactic Council dominated headlines worldwide. People gathered in town squares and city parks, watching live broadcasts of Alex's interviews and speeches. Some celebrated the milestone as a triumph, while others debated what it truly meant for Earth's future. Amid the chaos, Alex found themselves pulled in every direction, meeting with world leaders, answering questions from scientists, and even appearing on late-night talk shows. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, Alex collapsed onto a couch in their temporary office. Rachel handed them a cup of tea, her expression amused. "You know," she said, "you're kind of famous now." Alex groaned, rubbing their temples. "I didn't sign up for this part. I just wanted to do my job." Rachel laughed softly. "Well, too late for that. You're the face of humanity's first step into the galaxy. Get used to it." Despite the overwhelming attention, Alex couldn't deny the sense of pride they felt. Humanity had taken its first real step onto the galactic stage, and it was a moment worth celebrating. Still, there was no time to rest. The Galactic Council had made it clear that provisional membership came with conditions. Earth needed to demonstrate its ability to collaborate, adapt, and contribute to galactic affairs. That meant changes, big ones. Governments scrambled to form new committees focused on alien diplomacy, technology exchange, and cultural understanding. Scientists worked around the clock to study data shared by the Council, hoping to unlock advancements in energy, medicine, and space travel. Educators began revising curriculums to include lessons about alien species, their cultures, and their histories. It was as if the entire planet had shifted into high gear, determined not to squander this opportunity. Amid all the hustle, Alex received another message from Kayla. Her voice, calm and steady, brought a sense of calm. "I heard about the progress you're making," she said. "It's impressive, but don't let the pressure overwhelm you. Growth takes time." Her words reminded Alex to breathe. They realized that while the challenges were immense, humanity wasn't expected to change overnight. Every small step mattered. Every new discovery, every act of cooperation, every effort to understand and be understood. One afternoon, Alex attended a meeting with a group of researchers who had been studying alien agricultural techniques. The methods were unlike anything humans had ever seen, relying on bioengineered plants that thrived in harsh environments. If adapted successfully, these innovations could revolutionize farming on Earth, especially in regions struggling with food shortages. "This is incredible," Alex said, examining a sample of glowing green foliage. "Imagine what this could mean for places affected by drought or famine." One of the lead researchers nodded enthusiastically. "We're still in the early stages, but the potential is enormous. With guidance from our allies in the Council, we might be able to implement these systems within a few years." Moments like these gave Alex hope. Humanity wasn't just learning, it was growing. And though there were bound to be setbacks along the way, the determination to succeed was evident everywhere they looked. That evening, Alex stood on the balcony of their apartment, gazing at the night sky. Rachel joined them, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. Alex smiled faintly, just thinking about how far we've come. A few months ago, most people didn't even believe aliens existed. Now, we're working with them, learning from them. It's surreal. Rachel handed them a mug. "And scary, but also kind of amazing, right?" "Yeah," Alex said, sipping the warm drink. "Amazing." As they stood there together, the stars twinkling above, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's journey was just beginning, and though the path ahead would be uncertain, one thing was clear: they were no longer alone. For the first time, Earth was part of something bigger, a galaxy full of possibilities waiting to be explored. Months passed, and life on Earth began to change in subtle but profound ways. The provisional membership in the Galactic Council had opened doors that no one could have imagined. New technologies were introduced, improving energy efficiency and medical treatments, Schools added lessons about alien cultures to their curriculums, and people started looking at the stars with a sense of wonder and connection instead of fear. Alex found themselves at the center of it all, traveling around the world to speak at conferences, meet with leaders, and encourage collaboration between nations. It wasn't easy. There were disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But Alex reminded everyone that humanity's inclusion in the galactic community was a shared achievement. We're not just representing ourselves, they often said. We're representing Earth. One morning, Alex received an invitation from Kayla. She wanted them to visit her home planet, Drevia, to see firsthand how her species lived and worked. It was an honor, and Alex accepted without hesitation. Rachel, who had become more than just an assistant over the months, joined them for the journey. The trip to Drevia was unlike anything Alex had experienced before. The planet was covered in vast oceans dotted with floating cities made of shimmering materials that reflected sunlight like liquid gold. Kayla greeted them warmly as they arrived, her silver scales glowing faintly under the twin suns. "Welcome to my world," she said with a smile. "I hope you find it inspiring." During their stay, Alex learned about the Drevians' way of life, their harmonious relationship with the ocean, their advanced understanding of biology, and their deep respect for family bonds. Despite their differences, Alex saw parallels with human values: love, cooperation, and a desire to build a better future. It reinforced their belief that diversity wasn't something to fear, it was something to celebrate. On their final day, Kayla took Alex aside. "You've come so far since we first met," she said. "Do you remember when you told the council about human reproduction? You thought it might ruin everything." Alex laughed softly. "Yeah, I was sure I'd messed up." Kayla shook her head. "Instead, it opened doors. People listened because you were honest. That honesty is what makes humanity special." Those words stayed with Alex long after they returned to Earth. They realized that their journey wasn't just about proving humanity's worth. It was about showing that differences could bring people and species together. Back home, Alex stood on a hill overlooking their hometown. The sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with stars that now felt closer than ever. Rachel joined them, holding 2 cups of tea. "Thinking about space again?" she asked with a grin. "Always," Alex replied. "It's funny. When I look up now, I don't just see distant lights. I see possibilities, connections, friends." Rachel nodded, her expression thoughtful. "And challenges, but we'll face them together, right?" "Right," Alex said, smiling. "Together." As they sipped their tea under the starlit sky, Alex felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey they'd been on, the allies they'd made, and the future that lay ahead. Humanity's place among the stars was still new, fragile even, but it was real. And with every step forward, they were proving that even the most unlikely bonds could bridge the vastness of the galaxy. For Alex, this was only the beginning.